What's good, y'all? My name is DJ Sun. We're here at Hidden Gems, and tonight we have a very special guest in the building, Philly's own Matthew Law. What's good?
What up?
So Matt is here to do the live set tonight. So every Hidden Gems event, we invite somebody to do a live beat, live production demonstration, and Matt brought a bunch of toys tonight.
I did.
What'd you bring?
So I have it's all rolling gear besides it's like one dub siren that I have by Benny Dub. Rolling it's the Roland SP404 MK2, the TR8S, the MX1, and the SH01A. So yeah, SH01A is keyboard, MX1 is like a performance mixer. So it's like it does more than just like, volume faders and all that type of stuff. Has a MIDI clock, so everything, when I press start on that, everything goes.
It's all linked.
Yeah, it's all linked that way. And TR8S is a drum machine, and 404 the sampler. So
Dope.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, Matt is a turntablist, been around the block as far as experience, touring the world with artists, guest sets, winning battles. The list is long. But recently you've been posting a lot and doing a lot more with production. I know you've been producing a lot, but it seems like you've been really pushing that, connecting those dots.
Yeah.
But what like inspired you to make that shift? Were you like looking for more? Or like bored with the DJ situation at the moment? Or what was it that took you there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a practicality to like why I made the setup kind of what it is. I've been like remixing stuff. I put out some stuff on remixing on Fool's Gold and, some other labels, Sony. And I really felt like the one thing that us DJs kind of, what ends up missing falling through the cracks when it comes to DJs and remixing stuff is like you make the remix and then you take that track that you finished and then you DJ it, but you're playing the finished track. Now with Serato and stems, you can maybe mute the drums or do this, all this stuff. But like, if I have a whole drum track, like a drum machine there, all those little pieces and stuff like that, I can open a hi-hat up. I can change like all these different things. So it makes it a lot more, it gives it more room to breathe. So I use it for original production, but I also use it for remixing just because it allows there to be like, every set is going to be a little bit different because of that. And it allows for there to be kind of all the gear that I listed ends up being a bridge between the DJ and the DJ sets and the club and the studio.
Right.
So it's like this thing exists in the middle as like
the secret third thing.
Yeah, it's like a thread. So it's like, I can play a finished track, but if I have just let's just say the drum machine and the sampler, along with a full DJ setup like 2 CDJs, turntables, and a mixer, all those things. If I have a 4-channel mixer, I can include all of that. It can all be there, and it can elevate whatever the set is and be something unique.
So I guess my next question is like, do you see this like as something completely separate from your DJ sets? Or I know you've talked about combining it all. Do you feel like in the future, ideally, you'd just have this amalgamation of all these different hardware setups that let you really just be as fluid as possible in the performance space? Or do you kind of see it like when it's time to party rock, you're going to do that. When it's time to make live beats and get funky, it's time to do that,
I think it exists somewhere. Like I said, like it exists somewhere in the middle. It's not going to completely replace DJing for me. I like tonight I'm going to do a set that is all just the gear and no turntables or anything like that or a mixer. But I do see I still think of it in some way, shape, or form as like an extension of my DJing. I don't look at it as like, even the performance I'm doing tonight is like put together to be like almost like a mixtape. Like it moves along in tempo like a mixtape. The whole reason that I wanted to even use mixing, like a performance mixer like the MX1, is because if everything is clocked to it, I can turn the tempo up or down or whatever, and everything goes with it, which is like DJing, A lot of times I think I'll see like, a house set from somebody that uses like gear like a MPC or something like that, and they'll run through the set, and it's like kind of just like at 126 BPM or just
time.
like right there the whole time, and it's like they're playing their original tracks, and it makes sense, and it works for like an hour, but I want to be able to go up and down tempo wise, like do all these things, but kind of have all these elements of a song or songs that are all separate and can be like moved around and changed. Like, if I want to take a kick out to do a crazy build up or something like that with reverb on another channel or on that channel and do any of those things, all that's available to me.
Right.
So it's still it's like DJing. It really is. It's still DJing, but it's not, I'm going to...
You have more power, honestly.
Yeah, you have more power, but the limitation is like, I'm not mixing two records together. But what I am doing is mixing the like, I'll have different drum tracks that I'm loading and like sections and things like that I'm running in succession, and those things can be played, can be swapped and moved around, different things, in that regard, and then I can play keys on top and like have arpeggiated keys running on top that's running almost like a separate, like you think about like each part is a turntable. It's like, oh, this turntable is this turntable is playing a melody, this turntable is playing drums, this turntable is playing samples, and you just have it all there. Yeah,
I've seen it online. I'm excited to see it live tonight.
Oh, thanks, man.
So we're House on Watts in Philly right now, which is your previous home of Friends and Fam.
Second home. Yeah,
the second home. Started at
Kung Fu
Necktie.
Yeah.
And Friends and Fam was a monthly?
Yeah, it was a monthly
and
pre-pandemic.
7 years?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Started December 2013.
Wow. And that was an epic party. It became a staple in Philly. You had some super legendary special guests that really linked like that party to the bigger turntablist community and just DJ world in general. And that's just for context. And now you've moved to New York in the last few years.
Yeah,
playing a lot more guest sets. Friends and Fam isn't happening regularly anymore. What's it been like? Like, what's the shift from being in your hometown, having a staple party like that, to being in New York and making your rounds?
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is like more about where New York is right now. Like, New York isn't what it was pre-pandemic. I think that, like, because I've been DJing in New York since like 2009, 2010. So I had a residency.
What made you move?
I was working at Fool's Gold Records as an A&R. I just stopped doing that, but I'm still like associated with the label and everything, and still all family. But I was doing that. Girlfriend working in film, so it just made more sense for her to be up there. And that's kind of why it made sense. And I felt like Philly was changing a certain way, but I'm kind of enjoying coming home more, just to see the family. But also, I think there's a lot of really creative. There's a lot of new creative energy that's coming out of Philly that I feel like in New York, there's a certain speed that happens in New York that only got accentuated by the like, it's become more obvious that things like move really, really, really fast post-pandemic, along with the separation of I would say the age gap. So like, there's a lot of young DJs who all started DJing during the pandemic and have like developed a style like almost like an internet-based. We were talking about this earlier, like the live stream and like boiler roomification of everything. Yep. Like that's at first it was just like, what is this? Like, you guys are coming out and you like kind of train wrecking mixes. You never know how to play. You don't know how to play longer than an hour set or something like that. Crowd reading isn't really a thing, like any of that stuff. But in reality, there's so many people like that now that's becoming a style. Right. So I think there's a divide. That divide has kind of set a tone in New York where it's like you're either over here or you're over there, with some exceptions, of course. Yeah. But in Philly, I feel like there's still kind of that feeling of conversation between generations to an extent. I think there's still, even down to like sound people who have been on the scene, like you think about like people who've been around for years, like Rob Payne. Like Rod Payne's been doing it, whether it's like house music or dub or any of that stuff. He's been on the scene for years, and he's, you know, still out here crushing it. People like Dave P kind of creating this like flow of different ages, different sounds, and all those things.
Dell working with
Dell,
PwC.
yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot of that conversation. It's a smaller market, so I feel like there's not as much room for it just to be the young thing.
Right.
And I'm not saying that, or the young thing or the old thing. And I'm not saying just the young thing and just the old thing doesn't happen, but I feel like there's more of a cross pollination between generations, and that's the cloth I'm cut from. Like I grew up and came up in this DJ's thing, period, because of people like Sonny James, DJ Lil Dave, the whole Ill Vibe Collective, you know, everybody from Scratch Mechanics, DJ Active, then to Rich Medina, King Britt, Jazzy Jeff. Like, these are all people who took me in at a very young age and allowed for there to be like a certain, allowed to pass on an understanding. And when we're talking about like what's going on in New York, I don't really feel like that understanding has been passed down in the same way, and it's not even like there's not even necessarily room for it. It's just the new thing or the old thing.
I gotta shout out DJ Impulse from Scratch Mechanics.
Yeah, that's the homie.
OGs. I think the special thing about Philly in general is like that connectivity. Being from Baltimore and having come here, like getting to see that. I feel like one thing I always think about is how if there's a classic, if a new song comes out that's really, really good, and not just because of the context, but truly one of those songs, it never leaves Philly dance floors. Like, we got songs from a year ago, 5 years ago, and 20 years ago that will still get played at peak hours.
Yeah.
Where in New York, the turnover is so quick. And that leads me to my next question. You know, I got to ask. Like, we're living in this moment where, we were talking about this for a second the other night, New York, and it's because of these younger kids who have been exposed to these different, more fringe genres because of the online space. Club music and breaks in general is super popular in New York right now.
Which is,
it feels like
crazy to me.
It baffles me, like, coming up there and hearing the differentiation that New York has given to different styles of club, where Baltimore club is played with jungle and drum and bass, and it's more of a break thing, and then Jersey is with the R&B parties, and then Philly kind of lives where it lives because some of it's more trappy, some of it's more funky.
Yeah.
As somebody that grew up in party music, and in
Glad
Philly,
you called it party music too.
You know what I'm saying?
You know,
as somebody that grew up in Philly, who now lives in New York, like, just talk about your experience watching these people who like might know the sound but might not know the culture yet.
I think I don't know how many New Yorkers or people who have been in New York that are like repping New York proper are like in the forefront of what I noticed for club music, and people are making club music. Like, a lot of the people are from Baltimore or Jersey and still very proudly rep. Like, you know, you got Tromac, you got like, you know, Tromac. SJ, and like all these cats who, you know, I know SJ's in LA now, but like the way that I see it is that I don't really know what New Yorkers are the ones that are like the New Yorkers making club music. I don't know who they are. Like, I mean, Sheck's from Sheck Dash.
He's from Jersey.
He's from Jersey too. So
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? So
like,
it's like
that, like Marvelito and
maybe El Blanco, Nino, maybe.
Blanco is definitely from New York.
Blanco's from New York. I think he's from the Bronx.
You got Bruckner.
Yep.
Who's a little bit older, but like
definitely. But like a lot of
I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of it feels like.
But even amongst the DJs, like, you know, because I guarantee we can name 10 New York DJs who put club in their sets.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Do you think that it's like it's a bigger and a smaller conversation, because what's happening in New York is happening all over the world with club music. Do you think that it's like a symptom of that trend, or do you think it's something like people are really actually getting in touch with the deeper club culture?
I think music in general has just gotten faster. So it's like, if you were already listening to drill and then sexy drill becomes a thing, sexy drill exists at halftime between the tempos of Baltimore club and jungle. So it's like you put all like I'm saying like 130
Yeah.
something all the way to like 160, whatever. And look at that half tempo. It's 80 or 70, 70, 60. Like it all fits within that. So I feel like it was a natural progression with that. I also think to an extent, Manhattan club culture going down in the way that it has, and Brooklyn club culture rising in the way that it has made, because I would say that Brooklyn to an extent, and certain club music, or like I'd say dance music, over the last decade plus, the more progressive stuff was happening in Brooklyn anyway. So now it's like, if for the most part, for those like any type of underground dance music, or just dance music in general, people are going to Brooklyn for stuff. They're going to the Good Room. They're going to 99 Scott. They're going to Silo. They're going to Elsewhere. They're going to any of these places. Like there's no up and down anymore. And those places were just playing like, friggin', I don't know, like Busta Rhymes, like Touch It and A-Rap Money. And like, that's the last, what I'm saying is like 2009, 2010, all that stuff. Like there's no real spots in Manhattan. And Manhattan had a vibe to it that kind of pushed a lot of the mainstream hip hop and R&B, and then places like Marquee that pushed like Big Room House. Right. So like it only makes sense that if everybody's like, for the most part in New York, if everyone's just partying in Bushwick or just in like in Williams, those are the spots. So that area has always kind of cultivated some sort of alternative thing. And now alternative is the most popular. If you look at it like, like Charlie XCX winning a Grammy and all that stuff, and they're throwing Charlie XCX parties at Market. I feel like there's a crazy turnover that's kind of happening where all of the stuff that's underground is very mainstream.
It's going to be like sponsored by Nike next week.
Yeah, bro. Like it's all that shit. Like, what's the name? Black Rave Culture just did a Telfar campaign. Like there's
Telfar has a special link to the DMV.
Of course. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that's even more of a point because of how many transplants have really taken over what's going on. Like I went to what's the dude that produced I Just Want to Rock for Uzi. I know it's like Project X, whatever. That dude from Jersey.
That dude.
Yeah. He's from Jersey. When that record came out, they did or around the time that record came out, him, Slink, a few other people did a party at the Lux Flux because he just played a bunch of unreleased stuff, and he was making stuff with Ferg. I think he had another one with like Cardi. Everybody was getting like that type of vibe. I think he might have played that Ice Spice, You Not Even a Fart, whatever record, like months before it came out. And it just made sense because that conversation, I would say specifically the conversation between North and like Central Jersey and the Bronx.
Word.
And like Uzi kind of just floats. Like I remember, when he was on a podcast years ago, and I think it was like with Pharrell and them, and they were like, "Oh, we thought you were from Atlanta." He was like, "Good." He was like, he started repping Philly later on, but like he's always kind of been this kind of floating sponge for all that different type of stuff. And now he's very much a Philly, repping Philly, especially I would say even with that I Just Want to Rock record is a good. I think that we're gonna look years down the line and be like, that really unified the Philly, Jersey, Baltimore, New York.
Oh, completely. I think it's really poetic that Philly was the one with Jersey production to take club music there.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
I mean, the reason the club, say what you say, you can say about anything in the inner workings of Mad Decent, but like the reason that club music went global was because of how it came together in Philly. It was being made in Baltimore, it was being made in Jersey, it was being made in Philly. But Philly, as far as like the business side of it, and like, the reason that people knew the Brick Bandits was internationally was, and not just on the East Coast, was because of what was coming through Mad Decent. Same thing with Rai, Black Star, like all that stuff. The level that they reached was because of that time and what was going on. I wish it wasn't the case in a lot of ways, because it wasn't really sustainable because of the kind of people behind the label. But that was a time, and the reason that happened is because of how that came together. I'm not a very good interviewer. I talk a lot. Like I'm not. I know we were just talking about New York, or interviewee. My bad. I know we were talking about New York and kind of like where club music is kind of gone with that. But I definitely think that
it's a bigger conversation.
It's a really big conversation about the specifically. I would say the world closes down for 2 years, and what comes out of that is like
energy.
All these people that are not like, so many native New Yorkers moved, and so many transplants came in, me included. So it's like, I might have been DJing there for like 10 or 12 years already, but I'm not from there.
It's a different experience when you wake up there on a Monday.
Yeah. So,
all right. So to leave it on a moving forward note, what's been inspiring you, and what's like something that we should be looking out for? I know you've been putting out music. You had a great collab with Matsu.
Yep.
What's to come? What you been on?
Me and Matsu are working on more music. I'm trying to finish up the actual individual tracks from this live performance, and put that out this year. Just some other stuff I'm working on, more club stuff. Me and Shu, DJ Shu. He's from Pittsburgh, but he lives in New York now. Okay. We've been working on some club stuff. So yeah, I mean that's mainly that. More stuff like the radio show, Law's Lair, every Saturday, eastvillageradio.com, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time. So there's that, and, more. The gigs are picking back up. Things are picking back up. Like, I'm feeling good about my work. Not so much everything else going on in the world, but like I'm feeling okay about that.
It's a blessing to have work that we can like just focus in on when shit is going crazy.
But I've been DJing for over 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, salute to that.
Yeah, it's kind of every iteration of technology to styles of music coming in and out, and it ends up being a gift and a curse in the time that we're talking about right now, where DJ culture has been, but a specific kind of internet DJ culture has become so popular so quick. Other forms that might have been informed by a more physical experience collectively isn't really shared in the same way. There's like generation of people and a couple generations of people that know how to be in a room together, right. And there's a lot of younger people that do not know how to be in a room together. And it really does shift things, but hopefully, we can change that.
Well, I got one more question, actually.
All right, yeah.
And this is something you put on your IG recently that I thought was a really good thought. And you were talking about if you want to be a DJ or somebody out here that breaks records and introduces people to new sounds in general, you got to be known, because otherwise you got no one to show it to.
Well, make yourself known.
Make yourself known so that when you present the new stuff, there's people paying attention and listening. And talk about that, and also just like in general, like advice with your 20 years of experience, for anybody who's just getting into this now, whether from the producer side of things or the DJ side of things, just like navigating it, and maybe not so much the process itself, but the personality side, like the person side, connecting those dots in real life.
I mean, when I said that online, I was kind of speaking to myself as much as I was speaking to anybody else. I still struggle with it, of like exactly what parts of myself I feel comfortable sharing with people and what parts I don't. And, you'll be surprised that if you've really built up a cachet of experiences, that like some of those experiences you don't even really think about, or some of the ways that you might have interacted with your art in a certain way that might have been low lift, are really easy to just put on the internet. And then people will figure out like I got the most engagement that I've ever gotten off of a mistake, technically. I thought that this song by Bob James, Shambuzi, or Shabuzi, is Shambuzi? I think it's Shambuzi. Went well with, or I thought it was the original, it was the sample for TV Off, Kendrick. It's not the sample, but it sounds really crazy. Good with it. I know exactly. So I was like, yo, here you go. And I've gotten I think I got like 400 followers off that shit in like 2 weeks. And it's like, metrics be damned. Like, I don't really give a fuck about that. But when I think about it in terms of what that can do for your career,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. And I was talking about this with a good friend of mine. We were just talking, and it's like, I was kind of like, and somebody who used to come to like friends and family when I first started, and even like older parties like Super Dope and Fish Tank and all those parties I used to do. He was like, yeah, you kind of like, we're doing all this stuff 10 years too early. Because this is all shit I was already doing. Like, I posted an edit that I made in 2014 of Missy's Pass That Dutch over Lay Sin's Grind, which is like, that's Tori Imo's the house stuff. So I did that. I made that in 2014 and I posted it. Everybody was like, yo, I need that. I did it for like a mixtape that I did when I first was like making that type of stuff. But that was, that's 10 years old. Instagram didn't even have video then. The longest video besides YouTube that anybody was paying attention to was Vine. So it's like you had 6 seconds, 15 seconds. You can't even do that shit. So it's like you can, if we're talking about like encouraging people to put themselves out there, what parts of, if you've had time to build up something, or you have an idea that you feel like is low lift and you don't mind sharing more consistently, do that. Don't do it if you feel like, like don't get roped into like a TikTok dance type of thing where like every time a new dance comes out, you gotta do something. I've even been thinking about it in terms of like what little fun edits I'm going to post, because I don't want to be the person that like every time a new song comes out, I'm just putting like making a blend out of it or something like that. It's like, no, like there needs to be some thought process behind it. For me, it's like really the kind of melodic neo soul type of upbringing that I have being from Philly, and specifically West Philly, like coming up around all that stuff. So that's what I do, because that's what speaks to me. And I know I can do that often enough that people will see that and be like, oh, he's the guy that does this type of thing. But I also have things diversified enough where from that point, I can also build and do like the live production stuff and post stuff that's similar to that or within that vein. And I can do other stuff where, I didn't know that many people were going to like the video that you mentioned, where I'm just speaking to people. Why don't I do that more often? I have in 20 plus years of insight. I just don't want to be preachy. Right. But some people, maybe I didn't come off as preachy. Maybe I don't think I come across as preachy as I might think I do.
It's almost like you just got to get outside of yourself and just send it and see how it lands before you judge how it will. Yeah.
We're so... I feel like the algorithmic way that people share is frustrating, but sharing itself is not. Like, you should be sharing with each other.
Right. So, shout out to everybody listening. Make sure you share that. No, I'm just kidding.
Like and subscribe.
Make sure you check out the live beat set a few minutes from now.
Yeah.
We're going to film the live beat set at Hidden Gems today. Put it up on YouTube. Make sure you check that out. Check in with Gems. If you're a producer, definitely try and come out to an event sometime. Check Matt out. Check his schedule. Catch it all live. Man, good talking to you. I appreciate it.
Man. Yeah,
thanks for coming out.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun.